Hi, this is Maggie from Design Code Debug Repeat. If you're a beginning programmer, a beginning game programmer, a beginning data analyst, a programming teacher, or if you just find this content interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be posting lessons, tips, and cool programming stuff regularly. Now this video is probably a little bit more for the programming teachers because what I'm going to talk about in this video is how to create a CodeCheck problem. This is my first video about the CodeCheck system, which was created by Kay Horstman. And so in this video, I'm only going to talk about uploading a problem. I'm not going to talk about creating assignments. I'm not going to talk about the other kinds of problems that Kay Horstman provides. I'm just going to talk about a CodeCheck programming problem. And in future videos, I will go into detail on other topics related to CodeChecks. And if you have any questions or anything in particular that you would like to see, please include it in the comments below. And if I can accommodate you and create a video that will help you, I will. So I have CodeCheck problems on some of my YouTube videos. And so for example, this is one that I recently uploaded, which is a video that goes along with chapter 2 of one of my textbooks. And in the description of the video, I have two different kinds of problems. One is a code tracer and one is a CodeCheck that are from Kay Horstman. So here is the CodeCheck. And to be clear, Kay Horstman provides the service and he also provides problems. These two problems that I created here for my YouTube video use his service. So this is the code from my video, but notice that it's got some white boxes, so it's got some missing code. And this is what the user will fill in to see if they have learned how to write this sort of program. So it's got some instructions here: write an input statement with the exact text given below, convert the input to a float, and store it in the variable dog weight. So say the user writes this correctly. And then write an assignment statement that multiplies the dog's weight by the constant meal weight percentage, store the result in the variable meal weight. And let's at first write this one correctly. 2 is dog weight times meal weight percentage. Okay, once they think they've got the code correct, they can click the CodeCheck button and all of the tests pass. So notice that I have this running on 4 different sets of inputs. Now suppose they make a mistake. Then what they get is a little report. It shows for each of the test cases what the output of their program was versus what the expected output was. So what this is doing is it's going to run the code that you provide. That's where the expected output comes from. And it's going to compare it to the output from what the user provides. Now I use these not only on my YouTube videos, but I use them in my introductory Python course, my introductory Java course, and my object-oriented programming course, which is in Python. And some of my students really love the CodeCheck problems. Some of them don't. And I don't think that is the fault of the CodeCheck problems though. Alright, so here is the CodeCheck page. Notice that's horstman.com/CodeCheck. And there is a user guide which gives you detailed information on how to create problems. And then there's, a sort of a FAQ here for you. Now, one of the questions in the FAQ is, what is the cost of this service? There is no charge for students or instructors at public or nonprofit institutions. If you want to use the service for another purpose, whether commercial or not, contact me. So I did contact Kay Horstman and ask if I could create CodeCheck problems and include them on my YouTube videos, and I did pretty quickly receive permission from him, and I am so grateful. I love this system, and I'm really happy to be able to provide that little bit of value added to the YouTube videos, because I believe that the only way you're going to learn to program is by programming. Alright, so if we want to create a problem, we can upload it to his service, and then it will run just like, you know, this CodeCheck here. This I just uploaded to his service. So to do that, you click this upload problem button. But first we need to write it. So I have here, this is a simplified version of a program that's going to be in a video that I haven't uploaded yet to YouTube. So this is the actual working program. So we start from that, and if I run this program, it says, are you traveling by plane? Yes, no. And if I type yes, it tells me I should pack what I need for my destination and also headphones and reading material. Whereas if I say no, then it tells me I should pack what I need for my destination. So obviously the concept that we're introducing here is the conditional and logic. It's actually a much more complicated logical structure in the video, but I thought with the code checks I would do incrementally more complicated logic in the code check. So this is the first one. I thought we'd start out really simple with this one. Now notice also, so even though this is relatively simple, it's just a, you know, we're just testing for equality, and it's just a simple if statement, not even an if else. What happens if the user types, you know, not yes or no, but like yeesh? That should be interpreted as a no. So there's still little pitfalls to avoid here and that we can test for that are sort of interesting in the code check. Okay, so how do we turn this into a code check? A couple of things that I have learned. First of all, I would say write really detailed instructions. So the original program in the docstring at the top, it only had this line, determine what items should be packed depending on mode of travel. But I have put here a little bit more information about what the output should be based on the input right here. So I have a more detailed docstring. Of course, students don't like to read a lot, so you don't want to make it too long. And then down in the program, the code check is going to compare the output that's provided by our code to the output that's created when the user's program runs. So we want to make it easy for the user to create correct output. So like if they have a misspelling or something, that's going to be wrong, even if their code is otherwise correct. And I'm not saying the student shouldn't be mindful of their spelling in their output. They should, but let's not give them too much to think about. What they should be focused on is the logic here. So that's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is that sometimes the underscores don't show up when the user is typing in the code check. Now what K. Horstman uses is camel case, and I have seen other authors use camel case, and you know, there are probably businesses where they use camel case as the standard when they're programming in Python, but I like to follow the PEP 8 standards as much as I can. So that's just one thing to be aware of. Okay, so then we have to figure out what do we want to provide to the user and what do we want to have them program. So of course you could have them write the whole thing, but if what we want them to focus on is the conditional statement, then we could just have them write just these two lines, just the conditional statement part of this. We could have them write just the condition. You can decide what you're going to leave for them to write. So I want to, for this problem, I want to minimize any possibility of them messing up the output. So what I'm going to do is, I think I will have them write these two lines, but I'm going to provide this string in what I give them. So how do we do that? Okay, so you're going to put little tags, which are called pseudo comments, in the documentation for writing a code check. To do those in Python, you do 2 pound signs, and then we're going to write hide for the code that is the correct code, and then edit for where the user's going to add code. So I think actually I'm going to have 2 boxes here because I think I'm going to have them, well, let's see how this looks. So I want to put the word if in for them. So if I write edit if, then the if is going to be in that box. Just like in this code check, if I reset it, you see how this string I provided for them, that's after the word edit in that code check. Okay, so I'm going to say edit if, and then I'm going to hide the actual conditional code. But I'm going to give them this string. Okay, and so I need to give them some kind of instructions here because they're going to be seeing some blank boxes. They're going to see a blank box with an if, and then they're going to see a blank box with this string in it. So above that, I'm going to put a comment. Write an if statement that will be true if, let's say, capital T, if the output should include headphones and reading material. I'll try putting the whole thing here, and then append the string provided below to the packing list if the user is traveling by plane. So I don't know about those instructions. Well, we'll take a look at this and see how it looks. I often have to edit them a couple of times to get them looking perfect. So we'll see what that looks like, because I haven't really done that before where I've split into two boxes. So there's going to be two boxes, but there's not going to be anything between them if I don't put a comment here. So we'll see how that looks. And okay, so that gives us the code that they have to write, but we have to test this on something. So we have an input statement here. So what we do to provide test case input is we do # in, and then for each execution we're going to have a list of inputs. So in the case of this program, there is only one input, so we're only going to have one thing. But suppose I have two lines, like plain answer and train answer. Okay, so suppose I have for each execution two inputs, then I would put in yes and then a new line yes, for example, and that would be one test case. And then if I want a second test case, let's say yes, no, and obviously we would do maybe all combinations, no, yes. Okay, so and we would probably do some garbage input too, but just as an example, and then we'd have no. But we don't. We only have one input. So we can do yes, no, and then an answer that is neither yes nor no, like, absolutely. Okay, so that's the only input that we have here. I don't have any variables where I would want to substitute different values, but that's another possibility here. Let's just keep this one simple. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to select it and copy it, and I'm going to paste it into my code check here, and I'll call it plain travel.py. Okay, and I click submit, and hopefully I didn't make any crazy errors. Okay, so it shows me the testing, so it's syntactically correct. I didn't get any crashes, and it shows me what the output is. So for a yes, just to make sure my program's running correctly, we get what you need for your destination, headphones and reading material. But for the other two, which are not yeses, we get just what you need for your destination. Okay, now this is really important. You've got the public URL for your students and the edit URL for you only. So you want to save those in a safe place. I do a couple of things usually. Usually I will copy those and paste them in the doc string at the top of my program, or in a separate, you can put them in a separate doc string at the bottom, or just as comments at the bottom, whatever. I put them there, actually in the code, so that I don't lose them. And I also keep a text file of all of the, actually it's an HTML file, so I can click on them, of all of my code checks for all of my courses. Okay, so let's see how it looks running. So I can click on the public URL to see how it looks running. And let's see, so there are the instructions. Write an if statement that will be true if the output should include headphones and reading material, and then append the string provided below to the packing list if the user is traveling by plane. So if plane answer, now see, we're not seeing the underscore there. I typed it. And I've tried a couple of things to sort of fix that. Like I've tried to make this box longer, because you can see if the box is longer, then we can see the underscore. And I haven't been able to force that yet. So if plain answer is equal to yes, and then here's the other thing to understand is that they will need to manage the indentation. So packing list plus equals, and again, yeah, we can't see that. And again, I haven't figured out how to fix that problem. All right, so I'm going to click CodeCheck. Okay, and that all passes. But of course, if I were to do something like it's not equal to no instead of, oopsie, then it's not going to work for all of our test cases. So we got 2 test cases where it worked, but for this one, say, oops, nope, this is what we expected and this is what your program actually provided, and here in red is the bad part. Alright, so I think that the 2 boxes is okay, with this description above. You might mention that the user should press 4 spaces to do the indentation. It's up to you what instructions you want to include. And if you're using this in class, then you can go through some examples with the students and make sure that they understand how to use a code check properly. The way I use code checks in my courses, I use them in a really low stakes way. So I assign the code checks, and then after the due date, the day after the due date, we go through it in class, and the students discuss problems they had, they give me the answers, and we do an entire code check in class, and then I give them the opportunity to redo it. But this ensures that they've already tried to do the programs, or all of the problems, before we get to class and go through them. I really just love these for that reason, that they have to submit it, but then we can go through it and then they can fix it. I really love that. So that's how to create a very simple code check problem. And again, if there are specific things that you would like to see, please include it in the comments, and I will, if I can, make a video on that for you. And I will be making more videos. I will make a video about how to create a complete code check assignment, and I will make videos about some other things that you can do with the code checks, which are really cool. And hopefully eventually I will make a video on how to do code check tracers, but I have just started to learn how to do those, and I've only done a couple of examples of those, so I would like to get better at those before I create a video on that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like this sort of content and you want to see more of it, please subscribe to Design, Code, Debug, Repeat. I'll be posting cool new stuff regularly. Take care.